Okay, I think we've got a decent enough cohort to probably get kicked off. So yeah, I'd love to start by just welcoming everyone to our first real remote session in kind of the Zoomosphere world in which we now all live. And welcome to the Vancouver Customer Success Community. Really interesting talk today on KPIs and customer success. We know, now's the time of year. Before we kicked off here, we were talking about sales kickoffs and organization kickoffs, and we're thinking about how do we set KPIs and like the value we provide as a customer success team. So really excited to have some really great expert speakers in here to talk about their experience and journey today, which Eva will talk a little bit more about shortly. And really just wanted to first introduce myself. So my name's John. I'm one of the organizers here at the Vancouver Customer Success Community Group. And I lead the customer success team at Product Board. We're working on a Series B growth scale up out of San Francisco. And prior, I was one of the enterprise leaders in customer success across North America for Hootsuite. And before we kind of get into things, with COVID and with us being remote, it's really given us the opportunity to broaden our network, broaden our community, and the scope we have of who we can actually have participate in our community, which is really exciting. And we thought this would be a great opportunity today to kind of rethink around our mission, what we want to deliver as a community. And so, for us, we really want to think about how do we create a connected community. We have lots of experiences, lots of people who are, well into their careers in customer success. Some are just starting their careers, some are thinking about customer success. And how do we help better connect the community together? That's a really core tenet of what we want to focus on going forward. And how do we help you, all as individuals, grow your careers? And through that, hopefully, we actually grow the impact of Vancouver as a real hub for customer success talent. So, we're here for you. We want to provide as many resources, connections as we can going forward. And it's not something we've really been probably as intentional as we could have been about going forward, in the past at least. And it's something we want to be more so going forward. And so, yeah, firstly, just a welcome to everyone kind of near and far. And we've got a lot of people from Vancouver, and we also recognize that lots of people have joined who aren't technically in the Vancouver Customer Success Community, and we welcome you now. And hopefully you're getting to create new connections and new exposure to ideas that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise got the opportunity to. And we're excited to meet you too. So with that, I just want to talk a little bit about our team of organizers. So I've introduced myself. I don't know if the rest of the team just want to introduce themselves, but we've got a whole fresh new team now to really think about how we provide resources and provide that connection for the group. So I just want to welcome new members to our organizing group here before we get things kicked off.
Do you want to?
Yeah, so John, do you want to intro yourself?
My name is John Heron. I'm head of customer success operations at PTC. I located in Vancouver, but work for a Boston-based company. And I'll just pass the mic to Eva.
Thanks, John. Eva Kylekiw. I'm Associate Director at Alita, and we're based here in Vancouver, and really excited about our kicking off our first event tonight. Over to Maria.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maria Perez. I am a Customer Success Manager at Absolute Software, also located in Vancouver. Really excited to meet you all. And Jackie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jackie Mullen. I'm also located in Vancouver, and I'm a Senior Manager of Customer Success Strategy at Juniper Networks.
Awesome. So I'll hand it over to Eva, who's going to be kind of the MC today, and you're in good hands. But yeah, really excited about the content we've got lined up for you.
Great. Thanks, John. So just to, I guess, go over a quick agenda for the flow of this evening. We are excited to introduce our guests in just a little while. Then we are going to have, of course, a discussion around our topic for this evening, which is KPIs. And then we will definitely like to leave a good proportion of time to open it up to our wonderful audience this evening to ask away. But as we are progressing along, the chat is open. So if you think of a question, put it in there, and then we're going to try our best to answer as many as we can in the time left. And then please do stick around, because we do have some further information that's coming up, things that we're working on, or other events that you may be interested in attending across Canada. Next slide, Maria. Great. So we want to start off with a little interactive activity. So if you can take a moment to, if you have your cell phone handy, you can either put in your, bring up your QR code scanner, or you can go to slido.com and enter 43900 and just take our quick poll to let us know what challenges have you experienced with KPIs. Oh, here we go. Okay, so we're roughly almost approaching 50% response rate, which is quite strong. So far it's not knowing which KPIs to choose. I hear ya. So perfect. Well, this is a great session for you then, because hopefully you will definitely have some takeaways from this evening, as our wonderful speakers are each at sort of different areas of their KPI evolution. So hoping that their stories and their recommendations sort of resonate with where you're at. All right, so let's get to it. Let's meet our fabulous speakers. So I'm really excited to introduce you to three amazing women. And first, what we're going to do is let's hear about them. Let's hear about their background, their interests, and then we will dive in to learn about the KPIs and how they've developed within their organizations and where they're at today. So we have Jackie Mullen joining us from Juniper Networks, Jessica Palmer from PTC, and then Jenny Beazley from Tableau. So I'm going to turn it over to Jackie to kick us off.
Thank you, Eva. I'm Jackie Mullen. I began my customer success career at Vision Critical, now Alida. And after a few years of working at Vision Critical, I was ready to take on a new challenge and was hired by Avaya to establish a customer success department along with customer success KPIs for their new cloud business unit. Ultimately, I was transferred to Denver while working at Avaya. But after a few years in the US, my husband and I realized we were ready to return to our hometown, Vancouver. So I left Avaya and was hired by ValueWise as a customer success strategy consultant. At ValueWise, I designed and implemented scalable customer success workflows for fast-growing technology companies. I also established success metrics for the newly implemented workflows. Now I'm a senior manager of customer success strategy at Juniper Networks. For those of you who don't know, Juniper Networks is a networking company, and its products form the underlying infrastructure of some of the largest companies and countries in the world. It's an older company by tech standards. It was founded in 1996. It's also a sizable company with more than 10,000 employees. About 2 years ago, Juniper formed a customer success strategy team with the mandate of introducing customer success to the org and establishing a more customer-centric culture. When I'm not attempting to transform Juniper Networks, you can find me walking my dog, Bueller. Yes, we named him after Ferris Bueller. And in normal times, I enjoy traveling and exploring new restaurants with my husband. Alas, we're not living in normal times, and so these days you can find me breaking a sweat on my Peloton bike after work. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, Jackie. What an adorable dog Beagler is. Over to Jessica.
Great, thank you. You know what I love about meetings like this is we learn so much more about people than what we see from the top level, right? We learn about their hobbies and their interests. And so I'm appreciative of being able to be here today. I'm not from Vancouver. I'm in Philadelphia, though I feel like I need to add it to my list of places to go after COVID lifts up because the view looks spectacular. So who am I? My name is Jessica Palmer. I work for a company called PTC. I am the customer success strategy lead for our organization. Now, what's interesting is when I look back at my career, and I could showcase where I came from, but I want to call out PTC as where I feel at home. But I've really been focused on customers since 2007, whether that be an engagement manager, an implementation manager, or relationship manager, whatever it was called, it was always customer first. In 2014, I was working for a company called Cold Light, and we were acquired by PTC. If you're not familiar with PTC, they are a phenomenally profitable company that focuses on a software stack. And what they do is they take the digital from the physical and they combine it together. So I like to use the example of somebody on the farm, right? You know, those large machineries that are $1 million of pieces of equipment. Now, just imagine that farmer has that piece of equipment go down. They can literally bring an iPad over to that piece of equipment, scan it, order the part at that moment in time, have that part delivered to them, learn how to replace that part from an augmented reality perspective. And then if there's any issues, use their phone to fix it with a mechanic. So the technology is amazing. And the ability to talk to our customers and to see their journey is even more mind-blowing. But what's exciting for me in this journey is that I have worked with PTC and their customer success management group since it started in 2016. And so it's been an amazing transformation to watch us go from 5 employees to over 120 at this moment in time. So when I'm not working and dedicating my time to customers, I have 2 very passionate groups that I'm an advocate for, primarily because my kids have put me in this area. I am an advocate for the vision impairment for our younger generation, as well as an advocate for autism. And in my very short time, when I can find it and the world is back open, I work in the electronic dance music industry. So you can imagine I'm very eager to have the dance floor open back up. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessica, and hope to join you on that dance floor one day. Now over to Jenny.
Thanks. And I just wanted to say it's so amazing to be a part of this event with such strong female strategy and ops leaders. So I'm Jenny Beazley from Tableau. I'm responsible for worldwide programs, operations, analytics, and insights for customer solutions, which incorporates customer success, but also customer renewals, technical support, professional services, and education services. My career wasn't always in success, so I started off as a technical consultant at IBM in the UK. I threw it all in to go backpacking in Australia, which is where I ended up getting a tech support job at EMC. From there, I grew into program management, relocated back to the UK with EMC to do an MBA, and eventually moved again to North Vancouver, still with EMC, but expanding my responsibility from an EMEA to a global role. And I picked Vancouver because outside of work, my passion is mountain biking. So the photo on the top right was taken a few weeks ago when I rode what's called the Triple Crown. So for Vancouver locals on the call, that's essentially riding from Deep Cove to Horseshoe Bay, cresting Seymour From and Cypress Mountains along the way. I've been lucky enough to always be a remote worker, but with this growing trend and companies accelerating their digitization, it opens up so many career opportunities, particularly in customer success. When I worked for EMC, they were acquired by Dell for $67 billion in the largest tech merger in history, at which point I began working for their newly formed Chief Customer Office. And that really set up my pivot to Tableau as Tableau established their customer success team. So 2 years later, in 2019, Tableau were acquired by Salesforce. And for anyone unfamiliar with Tableau, we were founded in 2003, and the mission statement for Tableau has remained the same throughout, to help people see and understand their data. In fact, it's the only place I've ever worked where every single employee can rattle off the company's mission statement. And given the explosion in data over the last decade or so, it's more important than ever that organizations make sense of data to draw meaningful insights, which is a great segue into the KPI discussion today. So back to you, Eva.
Thank you, Jenny. And I mean, the Triple Crown, that is an incredible feat. So congratulations on accomplishing that.
Thanks.
So now that we've learned a little bit about the wonderfully diverse backgrounds and everyone's exciting hobbies and achievements, let's move on to talk about something that we have all in common in some shape or form or development, is KPIs. So we're going to now go back over to Jackie to kick us off with our KPI discussion.
Thank you, Eva. Juniper's customer success journey is just beginning, but to figure out where to get started, we needed to understand where we were at. And the first step in our customer success journey was to baseline our data. Last year, we launched several critical dashboards, including a net retention rate dashboard and a partner performance dashboard to get a better understanding of our financial data. We also launched a software activation dashboard to get a preliminary understanding of our adoption metrics. The net retention rate dashboard has been particularly important for our customer success journey thus far. With its launch, we were able to illustrate to the organization the importance of looking at expected recurring revenue before adding in new customer revenue. It's truly shifted the conversation at Juniper, and our CEO made net retention rate a company-wide OKR this year. In addition to baselining our financial and adoption metrics, the customer success strategy team understood the importance of introducing foundational customer success tools to drive real organization change. And that leads us to the second step on our customer success journey. I'm leading the development of a customer health score program. To get started, last year, we conducted cross-functional focus groups to understand the indicators of account health. We determined there were about 20 indicators, but realized that we only had actionable data sets for about 10 indicators. So we were flexible and we decided to move forward with those 10 indicators. We've translated the indicators into health measure definitions, defined the rule logic, and built a prototype with real data. We're now validating the model with the original focus groups. And next we'll move into the build stage of the project. Our goal is to make the customer health score metric a company-wide metric, much like net retention rate has become one this year. A success plan is another tool that customer success is pushing to introduce to Juniper, because we want to help teams become more outcomes focused. Last year, we piloted a success plan template with our Latin American customers and teams. And this quarter, our goal is to introduce a success plan to all of our top accounts. Let's return to our baselining dashboards for a moment. In looking at our dashboards, we realized that specific customer segments had lower retention rates and activation rates. And that brings us to the third step on our customer success journey. We're rolling out problems to address the customers with these lower activation and retention rates. For example, in looking at our software activation dashboard, we realized that customers had lower activation rates for certain products. And to overcome this problem, we built out a software activation play. We launched the software activation play last year and are continuing to build on the progress that we made last year. And our goal is to significantly increase our software activation rates by the end of the year. We also noticed another trend of customers experiencing challenges in their deployments of a new product of ours. We met with the customer-facing teams managing these deployments and realized there was an opportunity to improve the deployment experience for that product. We designed and launched an early adopter deployment framework. We're piloting the framework with 5 selected customers and are measuring its success by time to value, as well as customer sentiment via survey. And our long-term goal is to roll out this early adopter framework to other new products within the organization. As you can probably surmise, there are a lot of moving parts at Juniper, but there's also a great opportunity to move the needle. And our flexibility has been crucial on our customer success journey thus far. But to conclude, we've achieved some early successes by, number 1, baselining our financial and adoption data. Number 2, rolling out new foundational customer success tools to help teams become more proactive, data-driven, and outcomes-focused. And number 3, rolling out programs to address the problems that we identified through our baselining dashboards. Thank you for your time today, and over to you, Eva.
Thanks so much, Jackie. Such a thorough approach, and I just loved how you guys are really taking into consideration every angle. I will just be so curious just to see how this continues to develop, and really curious about the customer health score. So great, thank you again so much for sharing. Now we are turning it over to Jessica to tell us about the KPI evolution at PTC.
Excellent, great, thank you. So our journey is a little bit different from Juniper and Tableau, though I think each story that we have out there is going to resonate for each one of you at some point in the evolution. So let's paint the picture. It is 2016. We're super excited. We're starting this whole new department called Customer Success Management. There's 5 of us. I don't think we really knew what we were getting into when we started this journey. Our primary goal that we knew from our leaders was we needed to obtain and secure that ARR, that renewal. So we focused all of our energy on one product. We had this awesome application that we used, Gainsight, but we really didn't know what we were doing. So we were more or less just cold calling customers to figure out what they're doing with our software, to figure out, can we help them move the needle? Is there anything that we can do from an implementation perspective that's going to increase their value of our software? But what happened was that transformation of that first year from a leadership perspective, we saw that maybe we had some profitability in this, not only from a dollar value, but from an investment to our customers. And that was really our drive throughout our mission. So now we're in year 2. We've grown a little bit larger in our organization. We are dabbling within a global footprint. We're not only within North America anymore. And we said, hey, we might actually be able to make a great impact if we think about what we can do when we first start our conversation from an onboarding perspective. So that post-contract, let's get this customer success manager involved. And then we're going to offer them some services out there. And maybe those services are going to help expedite their implementation of our software. And let's be real, some of our software is easy to implement, some of it is complicated. And so we had to meet the needs of all of our customers. Now, what we're witnessing is that within that year 2 to 3 growth, other groups are really excited for the interaction with our customer success management group. We have product asking, how can we help them? We have sales and pre-sales all saying, you can help us in this conversation. So we started to penetrate the market a little bit more in that close engagement. If we advocate for customer success and say, we can help you with your journey throughout the life cycle of a 12-year contract, then maybe we can help maximize your return on investment. But the one thing we were missing in that conversation was really the adoption. Well, maybe 2 things, and the expansion. And that brought us to year 4. Year 4, now we've exploded. We are global. We have impact across the organization from a leadership perspective. But again, we still felt like we were missing something. And that was that ability to kind of understand what the full customer journey was. And so this is now year 5. We've decided that we are going to strip everything away from a KPI perspective. We're rewriting the story, but we're really focusing on several different initiatives. That's the customer journey. How do they get from start to finish and finish to now second finish? But more importantly, can we understand what they're doing from the multiple different technologies that they're using? Our NPS scores, can we change the dynamics of the scores that we're getting? And then, of course, I think you'll hear the consistency across all 3 of us is that health score. What is the sentiment of the customer? I'm really excited to see what comes from year 6 and 7, but I'll leave you with this one little piece. It's not systems, it's not process, it's not measurable KPIs, it's behavior of the CSMs. And when you're working with over 100 plus CSMs, you have to find a really fabulous way to tap into multi-generational resources, because their learning and their applicability of the systems is going to be completely different as you cross that chasm. So if we look back from year 1 to 5, it was always behavior. And so data is not sexy, but data is the DNA of our job. Thank you.
Excellent. Well said, Jessica. Before we move on to our final speaker, I see that there's some great questions coming up. So just another reminder, as we're approaching our Q&A session, to please keep the questions coming into the chat. And now over to Jenny.
Thanks. So just like Jackie and Jessica's stories, Tableau's evolved over time as well. At Tableau, our customer success journey began in earnest in 2017 when we switched from a perpetual licensing model where customers pay the bulk cost up front and then a modest annual maintenance fee to a subscription pricing model where we have to win back the customer's business every single year. And we had no historical data on subscription renewal rates. So we were starting almost from scratch in our subscription KPIs. And we began with a simple renewal rate to baseline performance. So comparing the dollars up for renewal against how many actually got renewed. And as we dug into this metric, we could deepen our understanding by making comparisons by cohort. So partner managed renewals versus direct Tableau customers, theatre or regional variations, splits by how much the customer was spending with Tableau. And some of the other things beyond KPIs we used to influence results were to build in renewals as a component of variable compensation for hundreds of our sales account executives around the world, so that they were properly incented in making the customer successful to secure the ongoing renewals. And we also invested heavily in my programs and operations team to identify and build frameworks to formalize the CSM activities. But renewal rates are a lagging indicator. So it took us a year before we could see any progress against new initiatives we launched, such as expanding our digital onboarding program from 14 to 90 days. We had to wait a whole year to see the results of that, and was it really moving the needle on renewal rates? So our next step was to look at leading indicators which influence the lagging indicator of renewal rate. And I've spoken with a lot of different organizations to see what they do, and there are always similar themes tied to customer deployment, adoption, service, and support experience. So if you're setting this up at your organization, my advice here is to use a data-driven approach. So your CSMs are going to have ideas about leading indicators, but get an experienced analyst or data scientist to validate the correlation between that hypothesis and what really correlates with an increase in renewal rate. And also it's an evolution, so don't expect to get everything right the first time. And once you've identified an area in your KPIs, bring together key team members to brainstorm how to influence it so that you have a plan for driving measurable improvement and using that leading indicator to then influence the lagging indicator. And then finally, we reached a point of maturity where we codified these learnings into something we call Tableau Blueprint, which is a step-by-step guide to help our customers become data-driven organizations. So what we discovered here is it's not the Tableau product alone, even though it's an amazing product, that equals success for our customers. The customer has to have an analytic strategy, a plan for a data lake, a model for data governance. And once they have that, then they can focus on the steps that help them accelerate time to value with their Tableau investment across 3 key lines of agility, proficiency, and community. So for example, when they issue a new Tableau license to someone in their organization, what's their education policy? Do they train that new user in-house? Do they issue them with e-learning courses? Do they bring in a Tableau instructor? Or do they have one of our consultants teach the team using their own data set? And this helps each of their employees ramp up on the Tableau product, which makes them more successful overall with their Tableau deployment. So these options that we talk through with our customers range from kind of good, better, best. But the important thing is to remove those barriers to adoption and help our customers derive value from the Tableau product. And you can learn more about Tableau Blueprint on our website. But I think this is a great way just to think about how do you turn your KPIs into something tangible and actions that you help your customers with. So for us, our next step in this evolution is to build these blueprint activities into recommendations engines so that customers who aren't covered by a customer success manager can also benefit from these learnings and suggestions of what to do next to get value from their Tableau investment, ultimately exhibiting the behavior which has a positive impact on these KPIs. So it's been a really exciting journey, and everyone needs to start somewhere. So, start with your lagging, shift to leading, and then figure out how you can codify that to put more process and structure and automation around it. So hopefully this helps you understand kind of how to break that into bite-sized chunks if you're starting from scratch with your KPIs. And with that, back to Ava for our Q&A.
Thank you, Jenny, Jackie, and Jessica. What a lovely alliteration. Thank you so very much for sharing this valuable information with us today. Now it is time to see what our audience would like to learn more about. So let's turn it over to Maria and see what's in the chat feed.
All right. Hi, everyone. So thank you so much for adding your questions. Please do continue to add questions that you have for the ladies here. I'll start from the beginning. This one's actually pointed to Jackie. During the Q&A, could you share how the programs and addressing increasing the velocity of first time to value for your clients? Victoria is very interested in learning more.
Thank you for your question. So first off, I want to state that Juniper Networks is a bit unique because all of our customers in the example I gave who are undergoing deployments are existing customers, and they are just making a change to their network. So specifically with the early adopter framework, we were measuring time to complete the implementation or the change in their network instead of first time to value. Right now, we're actually undergoing discussions about defining first value as we are also rolling out our success plans. So that didn't exactly address her question, but I just wanted to give a bit more information on where we were at and what I stated.
Thanks, Jackie. And I think this next question from AT is kind of touches base on what your answer, on what you just mentioned, but for time to first value, for complex implementations, are you measuring both the time to implementation and time to first value? And if so, when do you start the time to first value, at sale or at implementation? So I guess maybe touching base to what you may be doing in the future.
Yeah, I mean,
Sure.
I can, Jackie, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. PTC is also doing something similar, and we've struggled over the years with not when do we start, but what is first value? And I think first value is significantly different in every industry. And we're still struggling today, right? So we've acknowledged that first value can't be defined by the customer. First value really needs to be defined by our leadership. And in that, it's, let's just say for light examples, it's the pilot. Are they actually using the production licenses? And maybe that's in a smaller concept of 5 to 10 users, or maybe they went full throttle and they're using all. But that first value, or the first start, for us is the day of the subscription start. And that's very applicable in a SaaS-based environment.
Jenny, did you want to say?
Yeah, we look at what does the customer want to get out of Tableau? So if what's important to the customer is doubling their sales growth or cutting their costs by 30%, Tableau helps them see and understand data to understand sort of where are the opportunities to reach those areas. So our time to value is based a lot more around the customer outcomes and use cases. And that is more of a human touch, that we sit with the customer and collect these examples and collate them into something that could be shared with more senior executives back at that customer site, or potentially even translated into a customer advocacy story, which we can share more publicly on our website or at our annual conference.
Thank you both. Daniela has another question. She had 2 questions, but I think we answered the first one around how others measure time to value. She's also wondering, are there softwares others use for health scores and other key metrics? So I guess we're touching base on what software tools you use.
Well, I'll be the first one to jump out there and say that I'm a lover of Gainsight. So I think it's a phenomenal tool. It is robust. It's easy to use. At least I seem to think so. But that goes back to the behavior where, data entry, the not fun part of the job, whatever tool you use, that's going to be the hardest thing to kind of switch the light on. But I don't know if others have had similar experience with Gainsight, or if there's other software out there that they're using.
In our world at Tableau, we use Gainsight too. We actually calculate the health score outside of Gainsight and push that in, which gives us a lot more flexibility to build out the health score and just push the results into Gainsight versus use the weighting functionality in Gainsight. But I did see another question further down around overriding that health score with a subjective human touch. And Gainsight do this so well that within their health score, there's a subjective element, and then you can build rules around that to say a human can override to say a customer is worse, but not better. Or something along those lines. So that's actually a really cool technique to help you improve and refine your automated health score. In an ideal world, both of those always match up. And when they don't match, if the CSM says it's better or worse, you can use that as a feedback mechanism to validate what were you missing somewhere to get those misaligned.
And I can jump in here and say that at Avaya, I previously used Gainsight as well as a consultant for ValueWise. We recommended Gainsight for customer health scores. Currently, we are looking to build the customer health score dashboard actually in Tableau. However, we are working with our marketing analytics team to trigger call to actions and incorporate that into our future customer health score at Juniper Networks.
And I think that's a great point. When I worked at Dell and EMC, we built the health score in Tableau, but you're missing that element of triggering a call to action or recording which activity was taken to improve the health score. And for me, one of the really useful elements of Gainsight is the metadata it collects. So your health score goes red, the CSM does A, B, and C, and that gets them back to green within 6 months or 4 months or 3 months. So it starts gathering that additional information that helps you further improve and helps you refine what action you're going to take when you see scenario A, B, or C.
Great. Thank you. Question back to the questions here. Mark was wondering for both the groups and the speakers, and I think you all kind of touched base on it a little bit as well, but do you leverage CSM risk perception, so red, amber, green, for example, in your health scores, or do you mainly rely on data points only? So it sounds like there's a little bit of both, it seems. All right, let's see.
Oh, I can actually
just scrolling here.
Jump in and say that for our first iteration of our customer health score at Juniper, we've decided to only leverage data. The reason being is we don't have a tool like Gainsight where the service managers can input their sentiment. And so we still have to build out a process to capture that sentiment.
I'd like to comment too that one of the struggles that we had in the early years is not really understanding what we wanted to be when we grew up, right? And so we pulled in data from where we could, and then we also had the ability to have the customer success managers influence the health score. Now, the way Gainsight uses their health score is that they have measurable items, and then there's an overall score. What we found is that overall score, and Jenny was talking to it earlier, is the weight, and that's probably why you do it externally, is that weight would really throw things off significantly. And one of the great examples is a customer is not opening up support tickets. That's not always indicative of bad behavior or a risk associated with it. They just might be in a really good understanding of your software. But the way we had this pulled into our system, it would indicate a red, and therefore it would throw off the overall score. So we struggled a lot in those forming years to figure out what does our leadership want to see from the health score, and then how can we weight it correctly. And I think we still struggle a little bit with that today, but we're definitely on a path to understanding it clearer.
Mm-hmm. And I think with that support score example, with some customers, you could build something that looks at what's normal for this specific account. So if they average 1 to 2 tickets a week and it goes to 16, it could indicate a problem, or if it drops to 0 3 weeks in a row or something like that. So it's often useful to, as you're evaluating your health score, to put it into words like this isn't good because, and then just figure out how can you codify that.
Yeah.
All right, let's switch gears here and talk about behaviors. So we had a couple of folks, Sylvia and Victoria, asking about CS behaviors. So I'll pick on Victoria's question. I'd love to hear how and what CS behaviors can drive behavioral and or workflow behavioral change on the client side, for example, change management.
So if ladies, you're okay, I'll start the answer for this, or at least my insights. So the CSM team that we have today, we we have some significant challenges when we're trying to figure out how to incentivize and motivate our CSMs, primarily because we're not goal-based on their usage of our tools or our systems, when we have an expectation that this is part of their DNA and their tasks. So from what we've been focusing on now is really having a very robust change management strategy, and that behavior that we're trying to emulate is going to be reflective in our change management. So over communicating with our customers, for our customer success managers, ensuring that all of our resources understand what changes are coming through. But then that last piece is really the observation. Do they understand what they're using? Because everything that we put in place for them, especially in the ops world, is to make sure that they can support their customers effectively. So if they have the tools in their toolkit, which would be Gainsight for us, then we know that they're going to act correctly, and that behavior is going to be applied to that customer when they're working on their tasks. I don't know, Jenny or Jackie.
I'm laughing on mute because change management is the biggest challenge we have to introduce new programs at Juniper. It's a massive org. It's also regional in that we have different regional teams. And what we found thus far is that piloting new initiatives and programs with regional teams and getting their input frequently and incorporating it is very helpful. Additionally, we have someone on our team who is a change management specialist, but there are so many meetings every week where we are communicating over and over again the same message to the different teams, and we want to make sure that all teams in every region feel that their input matters and that it is being incorporated into the new programs that we are rolling out. Unfortunately, there's no easy answer, I would say. And so it's just a lot of repetition and a lot of time spent to make sure everybody is heard and feels that their feedback is valued.
Mm-hmm. And we take an approach where I think similar to yours, we interview our customer success managers for best practices that they're using. We take those ideas and build them into what we call a success lifecycle playbook, which is then documented in Gainsight so that others can follow those same set of steps in their interactions with customers and have a framework within which to work from.
That's great. Thanks. And then this is for everyone. From Lisa, can you share the key metrics or components of your client health score?
I can share some measures, and it was already discussed today, so by the other panelists and in the questions, but we look at some of the typical measures such as Net Promoter Score, as well as our tech support CSAT, as well as training or credit spend. And then we look at trending in regards to support tickets. So Jenny, you mentioned this, we're looking for changes over 3 months periods, whether they're increasing or decreasing, as well as any bugs identified by the customers.
And in addition to that, we've seen things like when our customers consume free or paid training, they're more likely to use the product and more likely to renew. So we measure for things like that when we discover these areas that indicate a positive behavior that come back to that renewal rate. For some other organizations that are much more mature, I've seen them introduce APIs that capture like a company's stock price. And if the price goes significantly up or down, it can be an indicator of the company's financial health, or plugging into external data that shows if the company goes under a merger or acquisition, or is declared bankrupt or something like that. That if you can take those news feeds and grade them and put them into the health score, or a new CEO or your champion has left. For some of those, they are the most mature health scores. But I think if you're going to start introducing stuff like that, you need a feedback mechanism where the CSM can kind of override it and give a thumbs up or thumbs down that this is or isn't relevant to this organization.
And I think that's a great segue into the one that I wanted to add. We factor in customer success management sentiment. So how are they interacting with the customer after their daily, weekly, or monthly meeting? Is it positive? Do they feel good, or are things going a little bit sour? And then a key factor for us also is that likelihood to renew. So we're always reevaluating that conversation throughout. Those are two manual measures. I understand that those are very individually interpretive and can be weighed differently, but I think it's still relevant and important.
Mm-hmm. And I think for SaaS organizations, if your product is fully in the cloud and you have that telemetry coming back, there may be product features you're using that can indicate a customer's health. Like if they're using 6 different features versus 3, they're more likely to renew. Or if they're connecting to different data sets or something like that, those can be great indicators of adoption health or health in the product itself.
Great. All right. So just jumping in back into the chat here. Raul had a question for all the speakers. Do you think it's better to have the same success KPIs for all clients, or to have a unique metric per client based on their own industry, or to have a mix of both?
It's a really complicated question. I think you need to sort of explore what is going to be best for your organization. We've definitely gone with more of the top approach, one KPI for all, but it definitely has presented its challenges. We're looking more right now at, because we're in the midst of moving to a SaaS-based platform for all of our software. So how do we have 2 different scorecards or KPIs for on-prem versus cloud? And so that's where we have kind of like that bifurcated process now.
Great. Here's an interesting question from Miguel to the speakers in the group. In your experience, how accurate are health scores and sentiment analysis in predicting commercial results like renewals and upsells? And then follow up, what criteria do you use to determine what metrics are relevant to track?
Jenny, I'd love to hear your insight on that. I think you.
So sorry, which one was this again?
I'll recite it again. So I'll break it up. In your experience.
How accurate are the health scores and sentiment analysis?
That's right.
Yeah. I think this is something where for companies who are doing this really well, they convert the health score into a compensation metric, and they can have their CSMs have some factor of variable comp into a health score. For us, I'm not confident we're there yet. We've had subscription for 4 years, and our landscape is changing. We're changing our pricing models over time. And so when you've got things that are varying, you're continually tweaking the health score. But I would think there's certain things sort of as you break that down into elements like the leading indicators we were talking about. Those leading indicators are a very high predictor of churn. If the customer isn't logging into the product or isn't a monthly active user or didn't even provision it, there's a very high likelihood they're going to churn. So I think there are elements, and then the health score is just trying to aggregate, because when you're trying to look at 100 different data points at once, it's clear it's not, there's too much information at once. So you try to simplify with an overall health score, and then when the health score is not green, you're then trying to break it down into actionable items.
Oh, that was great. Thank you. Actually, I think in the interest of time, I do apologize. I don't think that we have, actually, yeah, let's have one more. One more question. Let's say, okay, from Adrian. In terms of the metrics that are collected for the health score, could we health scorecard, would it be appropriate to look at the customer journey as a whole, and from there determine what metrics would be important? This will be our last question, ladies.
Yeah, I feel like this is what PTC is undergoing right now, to try and figure out what is our customer journey and how that accurately represents the score for that particular customer. And so we're rewriting that entire talk track right now, how we obtain those measurable items, focusing more on data-driven elements, reducing the manual components and making it more meaningful. But the overarching conversation really has to be that customer journey and how they're moving forward with our software. And so that's kind of the structure that we're leaning towards. I'll follow up with you in 6 months and tell you how it goes.
One thing I would just add to that, if you think about the customer journey going through buying, deploying, using, servicing, and renewing your product, some of those are going to be weighted more heavily. So the deployment experience, if we get that wrong, it's going to have much more impact in the likelihood to renew than if they have a one-off poor support experience. So while you should look at the entire thing, do think about the weighting, because some of those steps in the customer journey are much more important than others.
That's very true.
Great. All right, ladies, thank you so much for answering everyone's questions. We really appreciate your knowledge and experience that you guys have shared with us today. I have one more poll for everyone. We need help. We need help with planning our next session. We want to make sure that everything that we share with you moving forward is valuable. So please open up Slido, look at the QR code, and then help us plan our next session. So there are a few options here for us. So whenever you can, answer the question, what topics are you interested in discussing in future events? Would love to know. Don't be shy.
I think everyone just
all right.
Read it all.
There we go. They're starting to populate.
Next time we use EDM music, Jessica.
That's what we need.
Oh yeah.
Especially in Vancouver, it's the sun's starting to set. So.
Ooh, digital touch just got bumped out for customer journey building. Interesting. Ooh. Digital touch on top.
My personal favorite.
Oh, neck and neck.
One more person, break the tie. There we go.
Oh.
All right. Well, I mean, we are going to have more
Watching
sessions moving forward. All right. Well, thank you so much for participating. We will take a look at this data afterwards and really take a look at how we what we present on for our next sessions. All right, so as John mentioned in the beginning, we do have some extra resources for you in terms of next steps as well. So Vancouver, we have other CS meetups in around Canada. We have one in Toronto and we have one in Montreal. So we do encourage you to check out their websites, get involved with them. Myself, Eva, everyone, we're all involved in the other ones as well. So very excited just to see if we can do some collaboration within Canada and maybe have one big CS Canadian happy family. Just as an FYI, in Toronto, they're actually having an event on February 24th. So for everyone that's having an event or who's participating in the hiring of CSMs, they're doing a topic around what to look for when hiring and how to remain objective. So something to keep in mind. And last but not least, help design our logo. So call out to any designers out there. We're looking to build our Vancouver Customer Success Community logo, and we need your help. I do not draw or have anything like that. So hopefully if you have any interest in helping us out with designing the logo, just shoot that over and we'd love your suggestions. And lastly, of course, thank you for joining. Keep an eye out. We are going to send you a feedback survey because we love data. We want to know how we can improve and make these sessions more valuable for you. So your feedback is very much appreciated. Recording will be sent out. Resources will be sent out, hopefully in the upcoming day or so. But thank you again and have a great evening. And thank you again, speakers.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you.